What's up, Pyromaniacs? Pyrostasis here, and today we're going to be talking about Advantage and mainly rendezvous sites. I'll make a video later on that covers Advantage, but basically Advantage is kind of how the points are scored between you and the enemy, and whoever has advantage gets more points. That's basically the way it comes down to. So if you're wanting to take space, advantage is a key thing. I need to get off grid. A key thing you want to do. And we're going to rendezvous sites and supply depots are a great way to do that. Unfortunately, there aren't any supply depots up at the moment, so I can't show you that. We'll have a video on that later. But rendezvous sites spawn about every 15 to 25 minutes, I believe it is. So they're a great way to grind advantage as long as it's grindable and doable. If you look at this system right here, you can see Mimitar has the advantage at 28%, and our advantage right now is at 0%. So it gets kind of tricky because there's basically what I call forward advantage and then behind the scenes advantage. So forward and back end. The back end advantage is kind of like the true advantage on a system, and then the front end advantage is the number here. So I'll go over that loosely here in just a second. I do need to warp. Sorry, I've got a lot of windows minimized here. Let me go ahead and warp to my guy. There we go. And then I'll need to get him off grid here in a second. So rendezvous sites are a site that has to be scanned down. I've already scanned the site down. I have a scanning tutorial that's up. It's in the video description. If you want to check that out, make sure you click that link. I'll also be posting the fit that I'm using here. This fit is relatively cheap. It's relatively brain dead, and it's very hard to fuck it up. And it's pretty simple for doing it. Not only that, but it has a pretty good range, and it's basically AFK, which is really nice when you're running 2 or more tunes because it allows you to basically handle all of that without having to do anything. Now, keep in mind these sites are scannable down by the enemy as well, so if they want to, they can come find you. You're going to want to make sure you're paying attention. You're going to want to make sure that you're not that you're ready to get off grid. The nice thing about this is it's hauling ass at 2000. You're usually not very close to the objective itself. You can't see the objective unless you scan it down, and you can't orbit the objective, which is kind of a pain in the ass. Some people will put like a mineral, like some Veldspar in their container or anything. You can jettison that and then you can orbit your container, and that's a really nice way to do this. I'm lazy, so I just do it manually, and it's not too bad. It does take me a little longer that way, but it's pretty simple. And then I have a cloaky guy that I scan with, mainly so I can do one system in the front while my other guy is doing it in the back. You can do it however you want. I do have probes set up on this build, and I will link this build, both the T1 variant and the T2 variant, in the description so that you can take a look at that if you want. So we've just killed it. I know that the site's right around here. I'm going to go ahead and call my drones back so that they move in this direction. But let's talk about advantage before we do this. So right here you can see that Mimitar has a 20% advantage. Yes? We have currently right now basically 0% advantage. And there's front end and back end. So front end is the number that's right here. So that's whoever is in the lead. And then you have the back end, which is like the real mathematical numbers. There's a couple ways to track this, but the easiest way to track it is just literally hold your cursor over here. And if the two numbers, top and bottom, add up to 100, then doing a rendezvous site doesn't help you. You can see that by coming up here also to Faction Warfare. We are currently in the Lantorn system. So if you hold your cursor over here on Lantorn, you see where the red bar in the bottom is at about 20%. That means they could fill that up to 80%. You see where the Amar one is at 0%. That means we can fill it up 100%. So we can there's a lot of room for advantage growth in this system. There's not so much room for advantage growth in frontline systems. So like for instance, Aga is currently a big battle, and if you hold your cursor over this, you can see it's full. If we do Cormonen, both top and bottom are pretty much full. We have a little bit of room in the Amar side. So these systems are a little bit harder to push the needle on, but on the back-end systems like this, it's very easy. And then once you get advantage up to like 60, 70%, then things get really easy to push, because every time you're doing a site, instead of getting 2 or 3, like 0.02, 0.01, you might get as much as 0.04 or 0.05. And you can really move a system with that. I mean, if you've got a bunch of sites and everybody's doing sites and, roaming systems around it, you can move a site like 2 or 3 systems in a day. But again, it requires the enemy to kind of ignore you. So anyways, so to find the rendezvous sites, you want to pull it up and you want to scan it. So I have a scanning tutorial. We're not going to go over the scanning, but right here, you can see like we have this little symbol here. That's a site that we haven't scanned down. The Mimitar site here, we've already scanned down so we can see it. You would just scan the site down. You would be able to see it. You would warp to it. Keep in mind your enemies can do the same. Once you're here, it's pretty simple. You just kill the bad guy. So there's about 4 to 5 waves, and the last wave will have a officer battleship. You kill that officer battleship, and the rest will warp off grid, and you complete the site. And then I think you get like 10,000 or 10,000 LP roughly for it. It's not going to make you rich, but it does help the war effort. Every time you do one of these sites, you're going to get 2% advantage. So this will take us from 0% to 2%. And if you do this in several systems nearby, then you can bounce around between all the systems. So one of the things I like to do when I'm doing this is, for instance, right now, Aga and Vard are the front lines, right? Well, all of these systems are basically tied in, and this is like a cluster. Previously, we had a cluster up here. All of these systems are tied into a cluster. And so since the rendezvous sites respawn about every 25 minutes, the way to go about it is have a group running the sites and running the sites, pretty effectively. So if you've got a fleet of like 10 people, 5-10 people, put everybody in a different site, have all of them running the sites, and while they're running those sites, you're going to have stuff moving to other systems, right? You're running the rendezvous sites, which is going to then increase the advantage that goes up. So all those sites that they're running are going to earn more points. And then as you increase the advantage and as you complete sites, it gets faster and faster, and it kind of snowballs in the end. And then when you have multiple systems, you start getting the neighboring system advantage, which also ticks up. And then, it gets absolutely ridiculous. You can get up to like 100% advantage, and then it just snowballs. So it makes it very easy. The sites, like I said, this has absolutely no active tank on it. It's relatively low skills. I am flying the T2 variant, but you basically just want some drone link augmentators. You want some drone damage amplifiers. You want the overdrive so that you're faster. And then just a basic tank, an MWD. You want to get your sensors out to where you can reach out and target something at a long range. And then you want, your cap skills. And then you have your tank mods and your drone rigs. So this gives you roughly a 111 kilometer drone engagement range, which means you can basically just sit out here downtown Judy Brown and pound these guys. And at this range, you take almost no damage. I don't have a huge tank on this. It's not bad, but it's not huge compared to some of the other ships. But because you're, orbiting at such a far range, because you have such a high velocity, most of these guys can't hit you. You do need to be careful, though, of the battleships. The battleship will hurt you, and I've had him do on crits where he's knocked me from full shields to like 30% armor. So you want to be careful of those guys. Also, keep an eye on your drones because they will occasionally split like that. It can be problematic. If your drone skills aren't great, you may also want to put a flight of light drones in your bay. You have plenty of room in the Arbitrator. If you do that, it will give you the ability to switch between lights and mediums. That way you can easily take out the nasties. That way you can deal with the frigates. You don't have to worry about it so much. And then you can switch back over to mediums for the bigger ships. Most of the time, people won't come hunt you down, but do keep in mind you are in a war zone. People are going to be occasionally scanning. If you're worried about it, and right now I'm running 2 accounts and I'm not very worried about it, but if you were worried about it, you can keep the D-scan running, and this will let you know if anybody is scanning you down. If you see a core scanner probe, then you know somebody's scanning. If nobody's in system, obviously you don't really have to worry about it, but you can see I am in hostile systems. I am, there are people here, but most of these folks are more interested in the fights and things that are easy to find, which is what makes supply depots so dangerous. With the supply depots, you've got to be very careful with those because they show up on the overview and they don't require probes to be scanned down. So anybody that sees them can then just warp to you, and then, you know, you have a problem. So it's not uncommon when you're running supply depots to have real issues with that. Now, oh, see, here we go. I gotta get off grid, I don't want to play with this dude. But you can see the range, and I'm going to leave my drones because I don't really care. And we're out. And the nice thing about being at that speed makes it pretty easy. Also, my little covert ops guy is out here, so I can see what's going on with this dude. And you just basically be careful. Now, I'm doing this in deep systems, so you got to be careful because I don't have docking rights here. So this guy could nail me. One of the things that you should do here is make sure that you scan down a few. Yeah, he's going to scoop my drones like an ass bag. I mean, I don't blame him. That's 10 million, and if you're hard up for cash, then rock and roll. Technically, I could have engaged that guy at that range. My drones can rip him apart. Odds are he'd probably either shoot the drones or call in friends and then close range, and then I'm in trouble. So just be careful with that. But anyways, that's the first guy. I've done 5 sites this morning. That's the first guy that's pumped into me. So... and it was funny. It was almost like it was planned. So definitely keep your eyes on D-Scan if you're worried about it. Make sure that you're paying attention because you are in a war zone. People will show up. People will occasionally kill you if you're not paying attention. And especially if you're running multiple characters, then it can get really hairy. So, but like I said, this ship is relatively expensive. I'm flying the T2 variant, so it's a little bit more expensive. But I mean, you can get this thing fit for pretty much under 40, 50 million, and you can run these sites and really contribute to the war effort. So anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. Remember, every one of these sites will move this 2%. You'll get a little bit of LP, but you're not really doing it for LP. You're really just doing it to build advantage. If you have your corp running several people doing this, especially if they're running sites, because when that guy jumps in on you, you know, you sound the alarm, your fleet jumps on him, and then you're doing okay. You know, your people are fighting their people, and rinse and repeat, and you can kind of protect your advantage runners. And like I said, these respawn about every 25 minutes or so, give or take. So that gives you the ability to move from system to system. So the best way to kind of go about it is do a loop. So like for here, you could start in Vard, hit Amake, Dal, Lantorn, Sessi, Auga, Amamake, you know, and just kind of do a circular rotation. Not all systems are like that, you know, especially once you guys get pinned in, like we currently are with Auga and Cormonen. It gets a little bit more difficult because you can't just do the loop there. You kind of have to go through the blockade, so to speak. But honestly, Faction Warfare isn't really about gate camps. There are gate camps from time to time, but for the most part, it's not too bad. Anyways, if you guys have any questions about this, anything you want to know, any problems that you have with the video, any corrections, feel free to leave them in the comments section down below. If you want to try out Faction Warfare and haven't yet, I strongly recommend it. You can even make a Faction Warfare alt. There's going to be a link in the video description below. If you sign up with a new account with that link, it'll give you 1,000,000 skill points. That 1,000,000 skill points will help you get basically going right off the bat. You'll be able to fly most of the T1 fits with that batch of skill points as long as you spend your points accordingly. So my corp is recruiting, Task Force 641. You can join our public channel, and we will happily teach you the ways of Faction Warfare. And there's a lot of money to be made here. Plus, unlike a lot of other aspects in EVE, it's a lot easier to pick the fights that you want. So, if you're out in 0-0, you're going to get blobbed, you're going to have other problems, etc., etc. Whereas if you're out here, it's not so bad because, you're in a scout, nobody but other frigates can get you. If you're in a small, then the maximum you're gonna have to deal with is destroyers, etc., etc. So it kind of allows you to pick your fights, which I think is a great way to go about doing that. So anyways, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. If you want to try Faction Warfare, don't have a character, use that link. Helps me out, helps you out. And definitely, if there's anything you want to know about Faction Warfare, etc., just leave a comment in the comment section below. That being said, folks, slap that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next clip.